Hey, I'm Heyzeus, and in this video, we're going to be asking the question, if no one can afford good skins anymore, then who's buying them? Recently, there's been a big spike in skin prices and a bit of a crash, and this spike has reignited some long-standing complaints that skins have gotten too expensive and ordinary players can't afford them anymore. But for skins to be this expensive, someone has to be buying them, and we're going to be diving in and taking a closer look at this topic. We're going to examine how the skins market got to this point, how having knives that are worth thousands of dollars can possibly be sustainable, and finally, who's actually buying the skins. This is a pretty interesting topic, and I'm keen to get started. Let's get into things. Now, this video is sponsored by SkinsMonkey, the trading site where you can quickly and easily trade your skins. Just log in, add your trade link, and you are good to go. All you have to do is select the items you want and hit the trade button. There's over 150,000 items to choose from, and if you use my code Heyzeus, you can get up to $5 off your first trade. And even if you're not interested in trading, the site holds free, daily, weekly, and monthly giveaways that you can enter completely for free. It's a great site, check it out, link is in the description. So, to start off with, we need to look at the common complaints people have about skins being too expensive. For example, this guy says, "I'd honestly prefer to make the price of skins affordable for regular people. If someone wants a knife they actually like, then the starting price shouldn't be $4,000 to $10,000. I remember getting an M9 Ruby for around 1,500 AUD in 2016. Haven't played in ages and just spent 1,700 on a garbage BS knife glove combo. Would be fun to see everyone in game with cool skins, instead of just the insanely lucky or wealthy. Although it would financially hurt quite a lot of people if skin prices crashed to more affordable prices, I believe it'd be preferable if skins were more affordable to begin with. For a free-to-play game with such a large user base, it could be considered strange that skins are largely inaccessible for a significant portion of those users. So essentially, the big complaint is that skins just aren't affordable for ordinary players anymore, and it would be better if more people could access them. But of course, this begs the question, if skins aren't affordable, who's doing all the buying? Someone clearly can afford them, and if it's not ordinary players, who is it? And to figure this out, we actually need to break down how the skins market works and how the skins market has changed over the last 10 years, because the economics of it all are fucking brutal. Firstly, let's just consider how many knives and gloves are out there. According to the CS2 case tracker, we've opened up roughly 2 billion CS cases. Now, that may sound like a lot, and I have been accused of fabricating these numbers as a psyop in the past, but when you drill into it, it's not that many. In fact, doing some simple maths, we can see that the community has unboxed about 5 million golds, and 5 million golds for about 20 million players is only 1 gold for every 4 players. Except for our purposes, there's actually even less. Firstly, not all of these golds are what you'd call good. Going off buff 163, the median gold in Counter-Strike is only worth about $250. It's roughly only the top 15% of golds that are worth over $1,000. Now, I'm not saying there is anything wrong with a $250 knife, but when people say good skins aren't affordable anymore, typically they're not talking about a flip knife black lemonade. They're talking about much more expensive knives and gloves. And while you may draw the line on what constitutes a high-end knife and glove in different places, I think it's reasonable to say that there's only 1 to 2 million high-end golds out there. Now, of those 1 to 2 million high-end golds, a ton of them are banned or lost in abandoned accounts, probably never to be recovered. We don't know exactly how many, but it is a lot. And on top of that, to get a combo, you need a knife and a glove. So that's 2 golds per account, not 1, which essentially halves our supply of good golds. Now, this is very rough math, but it illustrates the point. As I said before, there is about 20 million Counter-Strike players, and it doesn't really matter how you slice it here. Most people aren't going to be able to afford a good gold because there just aren't enough good golds to go around. In fact, not only is there not enough good golds to go around, there aren't even enough cases left to open them from. When you look at what's happening on the market, the supply of old cases with good golds has been annihilated because we've opened them all already. And even if we spread the net to all the golds ever opened, well, again, even then, there's only enough for a fraction of the player base. There just isn't enough knives and gloves out there period, and there aren't even enough cases left to unbox them from. Golds are just too rare. But if golds really are that rare, why did they used to be so cheap? People aren't making it up when they talk about knives being cheaper in the past. They were. There's been a huge change. But the problem is, it's not just the skins that have changed. The entire world has. Firstly, people didn't actually think knives were affordable back in the early days of CSGO. For example, if you go back into the depths of OG YouTube, you'll find a video where a small YouTuber called MrBeast talks about how crazy it is people are willing to spend $250 on a knife that's worth $2,000 these days. There's also the appropriately titled Why I Don't Buy As Many High Tier CSGO Skins Anymore by an OG skin collector called Milk from 2016, where he complains that a souvenir Dragonlord being worth $25k was insanely expensive and there was no way it could last. Today, that skin is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. A $250 knife looks affordable when it's $2,000 now, but that doesn't mean people saw it that way back in 2016. They didn't, and that's why these skins were so cheap back then. And that comes back to my entire point. The world has changed. Since 2016, the S&P 500 is up 220%. Bitcoin has returned something like 20,000% or something insane like that, and while there isn't a single figure for this, collectibles like OG Pokemon cards are many times their former value. Skins are not some crazy outlier. The world has changed. People are willing to spend a lot more money on this kind of stuff than they were a decade ago, and as a result, prices are much higher than they were a decade ago. Now, to top all this off, we also have to look at the structure of the entire system itself. Knives are not designed to be cheap. The average gold takes 391 keys to open, so that's almost $1,000 before the cost of the cases. And about those cases, well, someone has to drop them in game. But you can only get one case drop per week normally, and because it takes 391 cases to get a gold, well, that's about 8 years of drops for every single gold that gets opened. Most players never get that many drops, so yeah, no wonder we're running out of cases too. And given all of this, let's finally ask the question, who is buying the skins? Now, it's very common for people to blame Chinese players with a lot of money for inflating the price of skins. And the massive increase in the price of skins does correlate to some extent with China entering the game, and the dominance of Chinese marketplaces in the space is impossible to deny. However, China is not soaking up the entire market. As a trader, I sell expensive skins to random people all the time on a Western marketplace, and when I look through the accounts I'm selling to, because I've got all of them there, 80% of them aren't Chinese. Now, obviously I'm selling on a Western marketplace, so no shit, a lot of Westerners are buying there, but you should probably think of it like this. The median American makes 48k per year. The median German makes 35k, and in Sweden that's 33k. Now, most people need that money to pay bills, pay debts, support their family, and do all the other normal things people need to do with their lives. However, there is a small percentage of people that don't have that problem and can spend that money on whatever they want. And when you have that much money, good Counter-Strike skins are still very much affordable. And because good golds are so rare, we only need a small percentage of Counter-Strike players to be able to afford them to keep prices up. And that is exactly what's happening here. Is China soaking up a huge part of the market and pushing prices even higher? Yes. But even if they weren't doing that, high-end knives and gloves still wouldn't be affordable for the average player because there aren't enough high-end knives and gloves out there. In fact, these kinds of skins will never be affordable for the average player under the system that Valve has created. It was deliberately designed so only a minority of players can ever have them. And unless you tear down the entire thing, that's not going to change. And if you personally feel that nuking the market is worth it to allow more players to have nice skins, more power to you, but that is literally what you'd have to do. Anyway, there is one bit of good news to end this on. The Armory is actually Valve's attempt to fix some of these problems. By allowing people to drop cases in unlimited numbers, it means the problem of us literally fucking running out of cases shouldn't be as much of an issue in the future. And while that may not make knives cheap, it might stop them from getting too expensive. In theory, anyway. In practice, maybe it'll end up backfiring. We'll see. But either way, I hope this video kind of explains how we got here. It is a bit crazy, and if you enjoyed it, please like, comment, and subscribe. Massively appreciated. Otherwise, trust the numbers, not your gut. I'm Heyzeus, thanks for watching, see ya.